All right. We are good. We are live here. Moneyline MMA coming to you at a abnormal time here, Sunday afternoon instead of our normal Monday night timing here. We're coming to bring our picks for UFC Des Moines, Iowa. This will be Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo as the main event with some implications on the bantamweight division. Some good other fights on this card as well that we'll be discussing. Before we go too deep into our picks for this Saturday, let's quickly discuss what went down yesterday, in which Jose and I had a pretty decent day overall. Specifically for me, going 4-1. But of course, the one loss, man, was the 5-weight pick. As sad as it is to say, Michel Pereira was Jose and I's both lock of the week, and independently we made that pick. And sadly, he just didn't show up, man. Like, I'm not sure what Jose's thoughts are exactly, but like I just felt like it didn't look like the true Michel Pereira. Like, I usually when you see Pereira go in there, he's so much more explosive and like ready to throw knees and elbows and spinning kicks, and it kind of just like it really did kind of remind me of Izzy versus Sean Strickland, like where Izzy just kind of stood there and it was like, where's Izzy? Like, it's where is he? He's not. This isn't the Izzy I've watched, and I kind of felt the same about Michel Pereira. Like, that's not the guy I remember watching. He just seemed like a shell of himself. So. That was really disappointing, man. Jose, you have any thoughts on that?
Overall, yeah, I don't think he showed up, and it was just pretty disappointing. Maybe I think, as I mentioned before too, he's starting to be a little more chill and calm and relaxed in his fights. And with that, he's not as explosive as he used to be, which means he's not taking the risks that he should be that, usually would pay off. But yeah, I just think he just almost got mentally shut down, and that's why he just didn't show up like you said, like Strickland versus Izzy. Izzy has all the tools to beat Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland just shut that out, and then it's just how they respond to that, and he just didn't show up and didn't respond accordingly. So ultimately, like, just disappointing.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely disappointing. So it's a learning point. You take that and move on, and overall still had a great week, going 4-1. Just to quickly recap, of course, Jose and I did pick Ian Gary, or at least I know I picked Ian Gary. Yeah, we got him to win. So Ian Gary, man, he's a great fighter, and we kind of predicted that he avoids the danger there from protests in terms of not getting KO'd, and he should be able to cruise himself to a victory, and he does. And sadly, that's a little bit of a knock against the nerds for once. The fighting nerds finally take a loss there, but I think they'll be just fine going forward. Anthony Smith did retire after losing to Minyang Zhang. That wasn't really even close. So props to Anthony Smith for finally hanging him up so we don't have to sit here and pretty much pick against him every fight going forward. David Onama was another win against Giga Chikadze. And then last but certainly not least, Randy Brown opening up the main card against Nicholas Dalby in great fashion, getting the win. Randy Brown just looked like a dog. I will say Dalby got a couple good shots on Randy Brown for sure. And there was even a spot where it looked like Dalby was going to finish Randy Brown. And then Dalby got on his back and was like just hammering shots away. But the ref actually didn't call the fight. And props to Randy Brown for being able to recover and get the finish later in the fight. So that just goes to show, like, that's why we hate seeing early finishes. And props to that ref for allowing Randy Brown to make a recovery. But yeah, that's it. That was our quick recap of last night. Let's quickly go into UFC Des Moines. So this is going to be the last card we see before our next pay-per-view, where we're going to see Bilal Muhammad defend his first belt. But either way, to get into things quickly for this Saturday, just as a reminder for anyone new, Jose and I make our picks in a 5-weight system in which we pick 5 of the currently 12 scheduled fights for UFC Des Moines, and we pick those 5. We weigh those 5 picks, in order of confidence from 5-weight to 1-weight, with 5-weight being the least, or 5-weight is the most confident, 1-weight is the least confident pick. 5-weight's our lock of the week, and we make these picks individually, and then right before the show, we just confirm on those picks. We confer on those picks back and forth, and that's just so we know what order we're going in during the show, because we like to go with the locks of the week first. Without further ado, my lock of the week for Saturday afternoon is actually going to take us right straight into the main event. For anyone that was listening last week or was paying really attention during the breakdown, both of Jose and I had our weights lower on for Ian Gary, and that led to us discussing the main event later on in the show. pretty late in the show, but this one is going to be the exact opposite. I'm bringing it up immediately. Corey Sandhagen is the main event versus Figgy, and I'm a big fan of Figgy. Anyone who's listened to this show for a little while now knows that I've been on Figgy's side, specifically since he moved up. Obviously lost a couple fights to Brandon Moreno, and I felt like he looked really good at 135. Rob Font he beats, Cody Garbrandt he beats, but obviously you can look at it like, Rob Font's a good win for sure. Cody Garbrandt, I don't know, he's kind of out of his prime. Marlon Vera was a pretty solid win for sure, but then he loses to Piotr Jan. So Figgy is coming off a loss. Corey Sandhagen also coming off a loss to Umar, though. Umar, arguably the easiest contender, the next contender for the belt in this division. So for me, without further delay, I'm taking the favorite here. Corey Sandhagen with a very confident 5-weight. Corey Sandhagen actually was above a 500, so 5-1 favorite earlier yesterday and earlier this weekend, but now he has fallen down to a minus 480 favorite, and I think it's going to stay around there. I doubt it goes much lower. I think some books had it as low as 450, but Corey Sandhagen is going to get the win here. The thing is Corey Sandhagen's wrestling is just it's great, and Figueiredo's not going to be able to go in here and wrestle him like he's used against some of his other opponents at 135 to get the decision win. That's just not going to be a case here. Corey Sandhagen is too stout on the defensive side, and he's obviously going to be the better striker. So honestly, I just think this is going to be a pretty simple, straightforward win for Corey Sandhagen to get by decision, I would say specifically, but that's just if you're trying to get a little bit more juice on your single bet. In general, Corey Sandhagen is going to get this job done. Like I said, I'm a fan of Figgy. I feel like I got a good read on what Figgy can do, and I just feel like his only chance to win this fight is by wrestling and keeping points on the ground. But Corey Sandhagen's just too good. Even if he does get taken down, he'll get right back up. He's not the kind of guy that's going to get submitted. So 5-weight Corey Sandhagen. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, I actually agree with you on everything you said. I too have Corey Sandhagen as my 5-weight. And yeah, I think he's just overall going to be the better fighter here. Corey Sandhagen, first of all, Davison Figueiredo, former champ, but that's nothing new to Corey Sandhagen. He's fought against former champions, and he's even beaten former champions like Frankie Edgar, or has gone toe-to-toe and has lost by split decision like TJ Dillashaw. So him fighting someone of a championship level caliber is just nothing new. This is just part of the game. He's already been thrown in these 5-round fights for such a long time now, and I think he's just going to show up, and like you said, I think he's going to be the better striker, and the wrestling is going to be absolutely no problem in this case. I think overall he's going to almost win. I think I don't want to say he's going to outclass Davison Figueiredo, because I think Davison Figueiredo knows that he has kind of like a chip on his shoulder, and he's he's still trying to compete in this division, being 37 years old, and going against someone as dynamic as Corey Sandhagen. Corey's like I know he's going to try to prove everyone wrong and come out on top as the underdog, but Corey Sandhagen, I think he's just going to be faster with the punches, a little more creative with the striking in general, and win the grappling exchanges. So that being said, yeah, I like Corey Sandhagen a lot. He's my 5-way and obviously our lock of the week.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. I even looking at it, Figgy has a negative striking differential here. He has a lot of UFC fights, man. He's been a veteran for a long time, and yes, he's definitely fought some of the better fighters, obviously being a champion at 125, but having a negative striking differential at this point in his career is honestly a little bit like it's a knock against him is what I'm thinking. Like he just clearly doesn't have that striking acumen to be able to take it. Like he's at least taken down one of his last 3 wins. When he gets a win on his opponent, he's always taken them down. I don't know. I don't see that really working too well for him against Corey Sandhagen, and it sounds like we agree that Corey Sandhagen is a pretty easy, confident pick here for this Saturday. So yeah, let's move on then to Jose's 4-weight.
Yeah, so for my 4-weight, this is going to be the welterweight bout between Santiago Ponzinibbio and Daniel Rodriguez. Right now, on FanDuel, I'm going to just refresh it really quick, but I'm seeing them both at a minus 113, dead even. So really just no, it's pretty split down the middle. Just scrolling down again just to double check to make sure. And yeah, both are a minus 113 right now. Really obviously no favorite here. This one was a tough one for me to see, to choose at first. I think Daniel Rodriguez was the one that opened up as the favorite. But I'm ultimately going with Santiago Ponzinibbio, and reason being is that he's just coming off a third round TKO over Carlson Harris, and for a while it's like, well, like after losing to Kevin Holland and Muslim Salikov, it's like, is he gonna fall off? And Santiago has not won enough fights, to be honest, since 2021. He's lost majority of them, only winning 2 to Alex Morono and Carlson Harris. But that being said, this is a good matchup and a fight that he should ultimately win. D-Rod himself, I like D-Rod a lot, and I really wanted to go with him in this fight, but he himself is just in his last few fights. He is just, I feel like, not looking as well. He's got that win over Alex Morono, but it's split decision, and that's someone that Santiago Ponzinibbio finished himself. And Alex Morono is a dog, but before that, he lost 3 in a row. But ultimately, like again, he did lose to some good competition. Ian Gary being one of them. He got submitted by Neil Magny, and then losing unanimous decision to Kelvin Gastelum, which who knows how you think about Kelvin Gastelum? Like, he's just can be good or bad depending if he's disciplined enough to show up fight night. But that being said, I think Santiago Ponzinibbio overall is going to win the striking exchanges in this one, even though D-Rod's got some phenomenal striking himself and does have a 1-inch reach advantage over him. D-Rod also does eat up a lot of shots, and Santiago Ponzinibbio has shown time and time again that it doesn't take much. He's just gonna find one good shot to rock you, and then he's gonna go in for the kill. Out of his 30 wins, he's got 17 KO/TKO, and D-Rod only has 8 out of his 18 wins, and Santiago just has far more experience, and they're both the same age, both 38, but Santiago just has a lot of experience, and he's gone against a lot of people. He's just beating a lot of dudes like Mike Perry, Neil Magny, Alex Morono, and he's just seen the who's who, Jeff Neal, Kevin Holland. He's just been all over the board, and he's even beaten Sean Strickland way back in the day, 10 years ago. But still, like, he's just been in the UFC for a long time and just has a lot of experience. I ultimately think he's gonna come out unanimous in this one. That being said, I got Santiago Ponzinibbio as my 4-weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
We're going to have our first disagreement of the show today here. I have a 2-weight on D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, so decently less confident than your 4-weight pick. I was also a little bit on the fence, and that's part of why I have a little bit lower weight on it. So, like, I do believe D-Rod's going to get the job done, and mainly because I think he's, in my opinion, a little bit more of a power striker. I mean, if you look at like pure KO numbers, Santiago's got a lot more KOs on his belt, but he also has a lot more professional fights. So I feel like it's like a ratio thing too. It's no doubt that Santiago's got plenty of KOs under his belt, so both of these guys have a chance to get a win by finish. But in the end, when you look at statistics too, Daniel Rodriguez just puts out 7.5 strikes landed per minute. Is just the volume there is insane. That's extremely high for a seasoned UFC veteran. And at least he's sporting he's sporting over a 2 positive strikes differential, which is just, in my opinion, very impressive at a level like that, where Santiago, like, he's known as a boxer and a striker, and he's at 0.19, right? So 0.19 to 2 to me is significant enough to where I'm looking to say that I think Daniel Rodriguez has a chance to win this on the feet. I think his numbers just show that he'll be able to not only output high amounts of volume, but a good amount of power as well. And one thing I think with Santiago is that I think a lot of the damage, I think it might be a damage difference. Like, they could both land similar amounts of strikes, but I think Santiago's going to end up bleeding more, right? Ended up having that wearing that damage a little bit more than D-Rod might. So with that said, I'm going to make that prediction that D-Rod gets the job done, probably by decision as well. I'm thinking over on rounds. If you can get over 1.5, that's nuts. But I think these guys feel each other out a little bit, strike it out, and D-Rod wins by decision.
Yeah, and you know what? That's too. I do think, like, I agree with you on aspect how the fight will go out. Obviously just a different opponent, but like, I was thinking that when I was looking at D-Rod too, like, that's the same thing I was thinking of, and ultimately then I think too, when it comes down to the grappling department too, both guys really, like, it's hard to me to say who would win the grappling exchanges in this one. I would want to say, like, maybe Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's really hard. I think I don't even know if they'll be grappling as much, and if they do, I just don't think we'll see much of it. Yeah, this is one we'll disagree on, but it looks like we just have similar thought processes. But at first, again, like, maybe I should, like, you think, like, if I was considering D-Rod, why Santiago Ponzinibbio so high up, And to me, it's just like when Santiago Ponzinibbio shows up on fight night, like he's there. Like he's actually like now like when he shows up to win, he's getting the finishes at least. Like he's TKO'd Carlson Harris and TKO'd Alex Morono, whereas in Daniel Rodriguez is just his last two wins, were by split decision, and then he beat Kevin Lee unanimous. But Kevin Lee is not a welterweight. He's a lightweight, and he's not even in the UFC anymore. So that being said, like, and I think D-Rod used to be a lightweight too. Possibly I see he also I could be wrong, but like Kevin Lee I don't think is a true welterweight, that's for sure. So that being said, yeah, I think Santiago's going to show up, and even though he has got the finishes the last two times, I just think against D-Rod it's probably just going to be a decision. So this is definitely one we're going to disagree on.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of MMA math, if you ask me. Like, I get what you're saying, but in the end, I don't really care what happened in 2021. I think D-Rod's the better fighter this as we speak today. So I guess time will tell on that.
Sure.
But yeah, so that said, let's move on to my four weight. And we're going to go into, I'm pretty sure Jose's a big fan of this guy. I know for me, it's one of my favorite UFC fighters. It's hard not to be biased on a guy that's honestly from the same hometown as me. Of course, I'm talking about a guy, I mean, wow, he's climbed up from being a prelim to being a prelim main event to now being on the main event. Not quite a pay-per-view card, but at least UFC Des Moines. So it's a pretty, flagship card. This guy's never been finished. Of course, I'm talking about Montel Quick Jackson. This guy's coming off a finish of Damon Blackshear earlier last year. That was July of last year. So it's actually been a nice healthy 10 or so months since Montel Jackson stepped in the cage. But this kid straight out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Big fan of Montel Jackson. He's honestly got what most people forget is a pretty solid wrestling background in which he's kind of expanded his striking off of. So Montel Jackson, even though you think like, oh, look at he's got 2 KO wins in a row and actually 3 KO wins out of his last 5 fights. He's won all 5 of those fights, 3 of them by KO. But he actually still takes down almost 3.5, gets 3.5 takedowns per 15-minute fight, which I find to be pretty impressive. And I think he's able to push that pace. He's usually able to have great cardio, and he's gone the distance for the full 15 minutes to get decision wins in the past as well. So he's also proven it doesn't have to be like a first-round KO to get the win kind of situation, which is part of the reason I'm so confident to put Montel Jackson as my 4-weight. Daniel Marcos is a great fighter. This isn't necessarily a knock against him, and I think the public is showing that in the odds, right? Montel Jackson's minus 245, so just about 2.5 to 1 favorite. Daniel Marcos is at plus 186, so he's getting some respect. I think at this point, just based off his last couple of fights, Montel Jackson's going to be a huge favorite against most of the guys not in the top 10 of this division. But Marcos, he deserves some respect. He's coming off a win against Adrian Yanez at the end of 2024. But, I'm looking at it like, yeah, that was great, but it was a split decision win. And before that, he beats John Castaneda, also by decision. He's not really coming out here and like decisively winning these fights. And honestly, those are good fighters, but nothing that insane. Not that Montel Jackson's fought the top of the line by any means either, but Damon Blackshear, I have a lot of respect for, and I think Damon Blackshear's a stud. He's actually already won 3 fights now since losing to Montel Jackson. So that's impressive to me. Damon Blackshear is a great fighter, and to get knocked out in the first round like that just goes to show, in my opinion, that Montel Jackson's going to walk in here and put on a highlight reel against Daniel Marcos. He's the rightful favorite here, and he's my 4-weight pick. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, this one, I got Montel Jackson too. He is my 3-weight. And ultimately, yeah, I think, he's just coming back off those 2 first round KOs. And I think, like, this could be like another KO for him as well. Then even though Daniel Marcus has never been finished, I just think Montel Jackson definitely has shown that he has just phenomenal power in his strikes, and how they stand up like physically as well, like just that reach advantage as well. I think it's just going to be tough for Daniel Marquez to deal with. Dealing with a 6.5 reach advantage, a guy with power, throws a good volume of strikes, and he doesn't absorb as much back. He lands 3.39 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 1.42. Versus Daniel Marquez landing 5.9 per minute, but he absorbs 4.25. So I just think the height, reach, and the striking differential is just going to be in Montel Jackson's favor. And even when it comes to the grappling department too, I think Montel Jackson's going to be the one to possibly engage more, be the first one to get the takedown. I think Daniel Marcus will actually struggle to get Montel Jackson down. So ultimately, I see Montel Jackson dominating multiple ways, and I like Daniel Marcos a lot. And he's undefeated, obviously, but I truly think this will be his first loss.
Yeah, that's a good point too, and that is us predicting the first loss for Daniel Marcos. He is currently undefeated at 17-0, but all great things come to an end, man. And not that I don't think Daniel Marcos, like I said, this isn't really a knock against him. I think he's got a great potential down the line, but right now, Montel Jackson's just a better fighter.
Sure, and yeah, I didn't even think that he was from Milwaukee. I forgot that. So I'm glad I'm rooting for the hometown guy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his just because, yeah, I actually have, I know a couple people who went to the same high school as him. So very interesting, small world kind of situation. But yeah, let's go Montel. But yeah, with that said, then I believe Jose, we only got a couple picks left for this card. We've covered our heavier weights here, but we'll go down to Jose's two weight next.
So for my two weight, this is a fight I'm pretty excited about. It's the co-main event, the middleweight bout between Rainer D. Ritter and Bo Nickel. And right now, RDR, he is the betting underdog at plus 230, while Bo Nickel is the betting favorite at minus 310. Honestly, like this is gonna be my dog of the week for sure. Rainer D. Ritter. I'm going with him. Just the level of experience that he has, and he's just already rising up to the occasion. Since he's entered the UFC, we questioned him against like UFC level caliber fighters and how he would do it. Thus far, he has not disappointed. With his debut against Gerald Meerschaert, we were wondering like how is who it's gonna be an exchange of like the grapplers, and he ended up submitting in his debut the best grappling middleweight in UFC history, which is insane. And then he comes back and gets a win over Kevin Holland, which Kevin Holland obviously is fighting everyone, and he has like a lot of experience, a lot of UFC experience. So just two impressive UFC fights, and not only that, but before he entered the UFC, he also had a TKO win in the first round. So he's shown that he's well rounded, and even though he doesn't have that many KOs as TKOs, out of his 19 wins, he only has 4. He has shown like early on he can cause some serious damage and put people out. I don't think he's gonna do that to Bo Nickel. I think him and Bo Nickel are definitely gonna exchange, obviously, in the grappling department. And I just think that Bo Nickel, he has phenomenal experience, high caliber wrestling as well. But Bo Nickel's already been in the game for such a long time, former one championship champion. So he's already been dealing and been at the top for another major organization just on the other side of the world. And he's mostly obviously dealt with strikers in his career, but just his striking, I mean his grappling as well. I think it's just a testament to him just coming in and beating Gerald Meerschaert the way he did, and Kevin Holland as well too, though. Like just submitting both guys, and both guys are really good grapplers, both obviously black belts. And I don't know if Bo Nickel is a black belt, but he definitely is a black belt in wrestling for sure. And that being said, I expect Bo Nickel at some point to want to land the very powerful, heavy knockout blows, and or try to almost go bull rush and go for the takedown. But thus far, Rainer de Ritter has not allowed any takedowns to be allowed yet on him in the UFC, and Bo Nickel may be the first one to actually maybe successfully land a takedown. But I think Rainer de Ritter, with out of his 19 wins, 13 submissions, I think he's going to feel extremely comfortable on his back. And not only that, he is slightly taller than Bo Nickel, slightly bigger. He's 6'4", Bo Nickel 6'1". Not really important, but he also has like 2-inch reach advantage over Bo Nickel. So I think when it comes to the striking, he's probably going to be the slightly better striker as well. And I always like those reach advantages as well, just because they really do need less space. They need to cover less distance to land those shots. So that's why I'm just sign with him on this, on the feet, and even on the takedown. I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets one takedown of his own on Bo Nickel, or trips him up, or does it more in a not forceful way like Bo Nickel does, but more in a catch him in the moment and trip him and take him down. So that being said, I got Rainer D. Ritter, but he is my 2-weight just because Bo Nickel too, dangerous. He's being Paul Craig, who also is a submission specialist, and he submitted Cody Brundage. So Bo Nickel could absolutely come in and hold Reiner D. Ritter down and just ground and pound his way to a unanimous decision win, similar to how we did with like Paul Gregg. And I do think Reiner D. Ritter is a better striker on the feet than Paul Craig is as well. So I don't think Bo Nickel will be successful on the feet, but definitely possibly in the ground and pound game if Reiner D. Ritter does not respond. So that's why he's my 2-weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
Okay, so we're actually going to agree. I was kind of surprised coming into this one because I also, obviously, since we agree, I have the Ritter, and I was expecting you to have Bo Nickel, I guess just because, he is the favorite, and, he's kind of the crowd fan favorite as well, outside of the betting odds, and here we are. I'm picking the Ritter as my 1-weight, so just slightly less confident, but really for all the same reasons that you mentioned, man. Rainy DeRitter is a big dude, and honestly, I don't think that really affects too much. Like, Bo Nickel's a world champion wrestler. I don't think the size of the person's going to matter too much, like if he can take him down. But honestly, man, I would still not just like immediately write in Bo Nickel as the better grappler when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I would still potentially say Rainier DeRitter is a bigger submission threat because he's been there and done that with a lot more experience than Bo Nickel. I mean, what is Bo Nickel at? 7 career MMA fights? 7? Like, I understand he has a whole plethora of wrestling experience in his background, but in wrestling, you're not choking people out. In wrestling, you can't do a heel hook. And all those things are extremely, like, those are very different things to train for your whole life leading up to, like, training for, a rank or trying to be the best in the world in a certain MMA weight class. So I'm taking Rainier DeRitter, man. I'm very surprised that the public's giving him so little respect. I mean, like, it's not like he's coming off a loss. It'd be one thing if DeRitter wasn't able to win and he didn't beat Kevin Holland or he didn't beat Gerald Mearshart. Like, of course, then I'm going to have some questions and I'm going to have some reservations. But he's able to do what he needs to do against those guys. I think he deserves some respect here. And I respect, Bo Nickel for signing on the dotted line here. He must see something he thinks he can win. Obviously, if you're in the UFC and you're a fighter, you better be confident enough to be able to beat anyone, or else I kind of have questions in the first place. But yeah, that being said, we're going to agree here on the underdog, actually. So that's a very clear lock of the week, dog of the week, I should say, for us here this week.
Yes, sir. Another our dog of the week and another lock for sure. But yeah, this is that one, like, you would think, like, I was thinking of maybe Bo Nickel, but honestly, I have yet to actually bet against go against at least Rainier DeRitter. I think his last 2 fights I've chosen him. You know what? And I just one of those dudes, like, sometimes I just keep riding with them until they show me a reason not to. And thus far, he's not giving me a reason to go against them.
Yeah. Dude, that's totally fair, man, and that's kind of some of the same thought process I have. Like, what am I picking Nickel for? Like, especially if you, like you were saying earlier, it does come down to some striking, and maybe they respect each other's ground game enough to where, like, there's a full round and a half in there where they're just striking. Like, I'd really much so prefer to have the guy that's more experienced striking. I know Bo Nickel's been working on it. Bo Nickel is well aware that wrestling alone will not get him a title in the UFC, but I don't think it's just going to take him 7 fights to really round out his boxing game enough to beat a guy like RDR. So we'll see. Could be wrong on that one, but Jose and I agree on the dog. So with that said, though, that's going to take it down to I believe this will be my last weight for Saturday afternoon, and that actually is my 3-weight. So I'm going to be, for my 3-weight, I'm going to be picking Cameron Smotherman. Cameron Smotherman is one of the opening fights, and he's fighting Serhi Saidi. I believe I'm saying that correct. Serhi Saidi against Cameron Smotherman, excuse me. And Smotherman is actually the dog, as I understand it. Saidi is the favorite. Let me double check on that line. Saidi is -158, and Smotherman is +124. Smotherman is definitely much more of a stand-up striker. He's got 6 KO wins of his 12 total professional MMA wins as a KO or TKO. So look for Cameron Simon to stand up and try and get this fight done on the feet. And really same with Serhi Saidi. He's got 7 TKO KO wins out of his 11. So this is going to be a stand-up match, right? A boxing match. Smotherman's coming off a win against Jake Hadley, and Serhi's coming off a win against Garrett Armfield. So honestly, these guys really kind of match up well in terms of style. Excuse me, and they're both coming off of wins. So good for both of these guys. But I'm going to be taking Smotherman. I believe that Smotherman possesses a bigger KO threat. I believe he's outputs. When I look at his stats, he's putting out more strikes and absorbing less. He does have a slight size disadvantage. He's slightly smaller than Sergey Saidi, but in all reality, from what I've seen out of Sergey Saidi, like that's all he is in the cage is like a size bully. Like I don't get the sense that he's just like outclassing all of his opponents as much as he's just kind of a size bully. And Cameron Smotherman is not afraid to fight someone that's as big or bigger than him. So I predict Cameron Smotherman to be able to get the job done here. I shouldn't say with some ease, but when he's been able to do against a guy like Jake Hadley, I think he's going to be just fine against Sergey Saidi. So, of course, this is a 3-weight for me, but I'm picking it on another dog we're going here on Cameron Smotherman. Jose, do you have any thoughts?
Not too many fights, not too many thoughts on this one. I honestly generally did not know much about the both guys, so I kind of stayed away. But ultimately, like just as you described it, yeah, I think I would go with Cameron Smotherman as well. Ultimately, I think like he's just gonna be slightly the better fighter. I don't think I can't say if he would finish Saidi just because like Saidi's never been finished. He's always lost by unanimous decision, or he's only lost by decision. While Cameron Smotherman, his chin has been tested, though he hasn't been knocked out since 2023, and then before that, he had another one in 2022. But he's very competitive, like he's a very active guy. So that being said, yeah, this one I had no pick, but I do like the Cameron Smotherman choice.
Sounds good.
And I'm sorry, I'm at no ranking on this or pick for a ranking, but yeah, like I like that. But yeah, that being said, you got Cameron Smotherman as your 3-weight, and that just leaves me to my 1-weight.
Yes, sir.
And then my 1-weight, this is actually the opener of the main card, and it's the lightweight bout between Mason Jones and Jeremy Stephens. Right now, Mason Jones is a heavy betting favorite at -620, while Jeremy Stephens is a +400 underdog. Jeremy Stephens, he's back in the UFC now. He left. He went to the PFL and he did some boxing as well. And I'm just gonna be straight up. He's not a good fighter. He has not won since 2018. Really, he got one win in 2022 in the PFL, but that was split decision. Ever since then, just consistent losses, and he's really fallen off hard. Like this is a dude that possesses a lot of power in his strikes. Like he KO'd Josh Emmett in the second round, and he broke. It happened a long time ago, but he broke Rafael Dos Anjos' jaw, and that's why Dos Anjos has a metal jaw now too. So the dude has crazy power, but even then, even outside the PFL too, he's done some boxing. He's just been losing those two. Just his striking isn't the best. He's kind of a slow striker now, especially at 38 years old, and he's just 29 and 21 is crazy. And I just think Mason Jones is just gonna have the youth on his side. He's 30 years old, 15-2. He's never been KO'd or TKO'd, so he definitely has a solid chin. Making his UFC debut, so you really get two different extremes. You got one guy who has a lot of fighting experience versus this guy, and especially in the UFC. And then you have this one guy coming over from Cage Warriors. But Cage Warriors really produces really good talent. So that just says a lot what the UFC thinks. And Mason Jones may even be able to knock out Jeremy Stephens, because even Jeremy Stephens hasn't been knocked out that many times, only 3 times out of 21 times. Mason Jones himself is a killer. He's got 7 KOs/TKOs, and I just think ultimately like they're just kind of almost feeding Jeremy Stephens to Mason Jones, and it's just they're giving Mason Jones just a good name. So it just says a lot what the UFC thinks of him, like of him possibly being a contender one day. So it just says a lot when you see these guys make their UFC debuts against some name, like some dudes that you're like, oh okay, like because like honestly, if Jeremy Stephens never left the UFC, he still would have been fighting some ranked dudes in between, or just really good talent, up and coming talent. Just they're almost like they signed them back just to be like a gatekeeper, or just kind of help decide where these guys are gonna fall within the ranking system. So this one I got Mason Jones. I think he's just going to dominate. Clearly, all the people betting on this one think that he's going to dominate as well. He's going to be slightly bigger. He's 5'10". Jeremy Stephens 5'8". Mason Jones is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, and ultimately, like even the striking for Jeremy Stephens, again, he doesn't have good striking. Lands 13.17 significant strikes per minute, but he absorbs 3.05, and that being said, like I just think like he's just going to be tagged up. Either you lose unanimously or get finished. And when it comes to the grappling as well, I truly think Mason Jones is going to be the slightly better grappler as well in this one. Jeremy Steven, for the amount of fights he's had, he's only gotten 2 submission wins, so I just don't see much grappling in this one. And going in his favor, I see most of the grappling going actually in Mason's favor. Mason's got 3 submissions, so in his 17 fights, he's already got 1 more submission win over Jeremy Stevens. So that being said, yeah, I'm big on Mason Jones. He is my one weight though. The only reason he's my one weight is because again, Stevens has killer power. He's not that good of a striker, but he's shown time and time again if he just connects, he can make it lights out for anyone. So that's why I got Mason Jones. I think he's going to use his experience and that power. I think he's going to bank on it. So that being said, yeah, Mason Jones. What are your thoughts on this one? I know you don't have a pick, obviously, but do you have any thoughts on this one?
No, not really, man. I think you summed it up pretty well, to be honest. I would just be being rude to Jeremy Stevens if I said anything more. So just going to let that one be.
For sure.
That said, thanks everybody for listening. We'll, of course, be back next week, Sunday or Monday, with our normal streaming time to discuss UFC 315. Of course, Bilal Muhammad will be defending his belt against Jack Della Maddalena. So make sure to tune in, put up some notifications just so you're aware when we go live, since it's been a little inconsistent in terms of timing lately. But we'll be live anyways, and if you're not there when we are immediately live, then it records the session in the live tab of our channel, and you can watch it at any time. Let us know down in the comments below who you agree or disagree with. Thank you for watching again, and have a great week.